Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And today I brought out the meditation book with me, and so I thought that I would check out the meditation from today and also from yesterday, because I don't think I made a video on Saturday, on Sunday, well, now today. So I've got 3 days of meditations to go back and look at. Let's see what today's meditation is about. Today is October, what do I have dog-eared in here? Oh, that was September 30th I dog-eared. Okay, let's see what today's is. October 21st is today. Financial responsibility. Okay, let's see what yesterday's is. Detaching with love. And the one before that is Our Good Points, October 19th. What was the last one that I did? Throwing out the rule book. Feelings and surrender. Which was the last one that I did on here? Being honest with ourselves. Letting go of, I feel like letting go of chaos might have been the last one that I did over here. Okay, let's do being honest with ourselves. That might be a good one to do. Okay, being honest with ourselves, October 16th. Our relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship we need to maintain. The quality of that relationship will determine the quality of our other relationships. When we can tell ourselves how we feel and accept our feelings, we can tell others. When we can accept what we want and need, we will be ready to have our wants and needs met. When we can accept what we think and believe and accept what's important to us, we can relay this to others. When we learn to take ourselves seriously, others will too. When we learn to chuckle at ourselves, we will be ready to laugh with others. When we have learned to trust ourselves, we will be trustworthy and ready to trust. When we can be grateful for who we are, we will have achieved self-love. Wow. When we have achieved self-love and accepting our wants and needs, we will be ready to give and receive love. When we've learned to stand on our own 2 feet, we're ready to stand next to someone. Today I will focus on having a good relationship with myself. This is a good one. I'm going to go back actually into each of these and kind of read these by point and address them like how I relate to them. So it starts off with saying our relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship we need to maintain. And I 100% agree with that. I think it's, we talk a lot about couples counseling. I talk a lot about couples counseling, relationships with other people, toxic relationships, setting boundaries, setting limits. I don't know that I really understood. I mean, I heard all these things for years and years and years about maintaining your relationship with yourself, self-care. I even said in a video the other day, I'm not great at self-care. But I do think that understanding my own self-worth and that I am good enough and that I am deserving of love and that I am deserving of respect and I am deserving of consideration from others is something that took me a really, really long time to believe. I love the saying in the movie Pretty Woman, when they're laying there and he says, "You're beautiful." And she says, "The bad stuff is easier to believe." When someone tells you something long enough, you start to believe it. And I think for years and 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 years, all the bad stuff that have been flooded into my head, especially as a child, we talk a lot about, this is one of the things that I've known for a while, but we're covering this, as I'm doing this trauma narrative over being bullied with my therapist, is that those early years were my foundation years, like we talk about the importance of foundation years with kids. And my foundation years were built on fear, lack of acceptance, lack of self-worth, not thinking that I was good enough, unless that was from my parents and family and people around them. When I was at school, which was much of my life, you're talking about 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, and not being invited to things on weekends, not being included. I felt like I was not good enough. I felt like I didn't matter. And I carried that over into my adulthood. I carried that over into relationships to the point where I sabotaged relationships or, I never felt like I was, and not just romantic relationships, but friendships as well, until I started to realize, you know what? Like, I deserve a good life. I deserve to be loved. I deserve what everybody else deserves out there, And I think that that's a hard thing because then it comes into this whole idea of entitlement. And you feel, no, it's not about entitlement. Okay, it's not to be treated with human respect is not about entitlement. To be loved by another person or another creature on this earth, I don't think is entitlement. I think to be treated in a loving way, okay, is not entitlement. I think that it's about knowing your own self-worth and knowing that you're good enough to ask from that for other people. And I think that I started to realize that probably in my early 30s, you know? And then I think I had to go through some real crap in my life to really get it. I think when my mom passed away, and my mom was like the one person that loved me unconditionally, you know, other than like my dad and my stepmom, but like really loved me unconditionally. I think in that moment when I lost her, I don't think, you know, and I say this to other people, I'm sure it's similar to other losses, but like when you lose that one person that's been with you your whole life, that's always had your back, that's always been there for you, and you don't really know what that's like not to have that until you don't have it, you know? And so in that moment, I realized I have really, you know, my mom planted this seed inside of me to stand up for myself and to take care of myself. I have to start doing that on my own. I think as you go through some really like horrible crap too, the other stuff, it just seems kind of superfluous. It just seems like superficial. It doesn't really seem like it matters as much. So where I was seeking out in other areas, what I realized was it wasn't important. And that's when my circle started getting small. And I started, you know, closing in on, I really wanted people around me that I knew loved me, that I knew were ride or dies, that I knew had my back. Even if that was just one person, I would rather have one person in my life that I knew that I could depend on and that I loved and they loved me than have 20 people that I wasn't sure where I stood with, you know? But I think to be able to get to that point where I was going to ask for what I needed from people and they could ask for me what they needed from me and we could have that mutual relationship, mutual respect and conversation. For me to get to that point, I had to care enough about myself. I had to love myself enough, you know? And I think that I had this tape in my head that just ran around for years and years and years and years. You're not good enough. You don't matter. Nobody cares about you. Everything they say is true. You are a piece of, I mean, I had all this stuff said to me in my youth, you know, that like, oh, you're a piece of crap. You're this. I mean, I was called every name in the book, you know, and just treated as like I was disposable. And that's how I felt. I felt disposable and dispensable. I felt like I just didn't matter. So I had to do a lot of work to get to the point where I realized I do matter. If not to anybody else in this world, to me, I matter. And I have one life and I have to live it, you know, and it took me a long, long time to get there. And so that relationship that you have with yourself, you think about it, about it just being with yourself, but like at many times I feel like I have been competing and battling the voices in my head more than anybody else that I ever have. I've put myself down in ways that nobody ever could. I've said worse things to myself than anybody out there ever could. So it is really, really important that I love and nurture myself, and I love and nurture those conversations I'm having with myself in a loving and nurturing way, that I don't beat myself up for mistakes that I made in my life, that I learned to grow from them. I talk about, I have regrets. I do have regrets. I have a lot of regrets in my life, but not to stay stuck on them, to try to learn from those regrets and say, okay, what would you do differently? If you could go back, what would you do differently? What will you do differently now? You know, as you know, but when you know better, you do better, and trying to be a different person. And that's all, you know, like I say this a lot in my videos, but like, when you are working through issues in your life and you're working on being a better person and trying to be a better person, like the payoff is really for you, because then you get to enjoy the world more, you know? That's why her saying that this relationship that you have with yourself is really the most important one. Plus, every other relationship that you're going to have is going to come off of how you treat yourself, you know? Just think about it this way. When you're in a really happy mood and you're really joyous, happy, joyous, and free, how do you affect the people around you? Do you think that that's like they're like, oh my God, that energy is positive, compared to when you're in a really nasty, angry mood? How do you think that you affect the people around you? Well, that means that that relationship with yourself, whether you're in a nasty mood or whether you're in a happy mood, and no, none of us can be happy all the time, but you're affecting people around you, you know, definitely. So it goes on to say the quality of that relationship will determine the quality of our other relationships, like I just said. When we can tell ourselves how we feel and accept our feelings, we can tell others. I think this is a huge part, you know? When you can finally come to terms with, like, saying those, I think some of the hardest things I've ever had to say out loud, or even to myself, were the things that I didn't really know how to put words in. Like, I like to say to somebody, like, in early sobriety, like, I feel worthless. Like, I don't, like, nobody should want to love me. I mean, I felt that way. But to say that out loud was, like, so hard. It was almost like I had to put on this mask, like, you know, like, oh, it's okay, like, you know, like, whatever, like, I'm good enough, whatever. But I don't know that I really ever believed it. The one you have to convince the most is yourself first, right? When we can accept what we want and need, we will be ready to have our wants and needs met. So you have to know what you want and need, right? Like, you have to know, what do I want in a relationship? What do I want in a friendship? What do I want in my life? What do I want my life to look like? Do I want it filled with peace and serenity, or do I want it filled with anger, chaos, and, you know, all that? And you have to know what you want and need. You can't ask for it if you don't know what it is. So you have to know what that is, you know? Maybe you want chaos in your life. Maybe you thrive off of that. I don't today, you know? Today, when I'm having tension between people, I'll say to people, I can't have this tension. Like, what's going on with us right now, you know? Like, I don't have to have those conversations very often, but when it feels that way, you know, I just said to a friend of mine the other day on the phone, I said, I feel like there's like a detachment between us. Like, what's going on? And I said, am I reading into something? Because I'm way stressed about what's going on with, you know, my dog and stuff like that. And she was like, yeah, I think you're kind of reading into it because I don't feel that way at all. But I needed to say that. I needed to ask for what I needed. I needed clarification in that moment. You know, and as soon as she said, no, we're good, I was like, okay, we're good. Because I trust her, you know? But I have to know for what I need to know what I need to ask for it. You know, and then it goes on and it says, when we can accept what we think and believe and accept what's important to us, we can relay this to others. You know, when you know, somebody asked me this the other day, they said, what's that saying that you always say? Because they were trying to like say something to a friend, they DM'd me about it. And they said, what's that thing that you always say about, it's from a movie, it's from The Contender. Principles only mean something if they stick to them when they're inconvenient to you. And what that means is if you know what your belief systems are, you know what's important to you, your ethics, your morals. You know, at the end of the day, that's what makes us up as people, is our ethics and our morals and who we are in our heart, you know? If you know what that is inside, then you know when it's time to stand up for something. You know when it's right to say something. Because that's what you believe. That's what makes you up. That's what makes you who you are. That shouldn't be a question today, you know? I don't stand by and let stuff be said around me that I'm not okay with at all, you know? People can feel free to come to me and say what they need to say too. And we can have a conversation about it. It doesn't mean that we have to agree. And I'm not somebody that's big on agreeing to disagree either, you know? I mean, maybe what we're realizing is we just don't align, you know? And that's okay in this world. And I can be civil, but I don't have to have that toxicity in my life. But it's important for me to understand what my morals, my values, my ethics are so that I can, you know, I don't have to shout it from the mountaintop. But it's important for me that I know those things, you know, and I know what I believe in and I know what I care about. I know what's important to me so I can live by those ways, you know. It's integrity. You know, it's like my dad said to me one time, once you give your integrity away, you can never get it back. Our integrity, our souls, our belief systems, our ethics, our morals, our values, that's literally all we have besides the bodies that we live in. You know, that's it. So, you know, I think that that's really important. When we learn to take ourselves seriously, others will too. This was a huge lesson for me, right? That I feel like for years and years and years, I can remember like working, you know, and there was like several men that I worked around and they would tell a lot of like gay jokes. And I can remember like, I always felt weird inside, but like I was not that place where I felt like I could stand up for myself. And I can remember finally being like, I can't do this anymore. Like and they'd be like, oh, it's just a joke. It's whatever. You know, we love you, whatever. Okay, well, you don't make jokes about people that you love. I don't care. Like, that's not funny to me. And I'm not that serious of a person. Like, listen, I love a good joke too, okay? But when every joke that you're telling is offensive to somebody else, then what you're saying is that your humor is completely based on putting other people down. And that to me, like, and so when I started standing up for things that were important to me and things that were serious, people started taking me a little bit more seriously. You know, when I wouldn't just let stuff slide and I'd be like, you know what, like, I have some questions about what you just said, or I'm not really sure why you feel it's okay to use that language around me. People started taking me more seriously, you know? But that was my responsibility to let other people know I'm nobody's joke, okay? Yeah, I can be funny. I can make people laugh. But my existence, my mere existence, is not a joke, okay? And if you think it is, then we don't need to be around each other. Because I don't have people in my life that think I'm a joke, that think I'm dispensable. I lived through that. I'm not doing that today, you know? This is a really good meditation. When we learn to chuckle at ourselves, we will be ready to laugh with others. I think that's another big part, you know? Yes, there are times to take ourselves serious, but there are also times to take ourselves lightheartedly, you know? When we make stupid mistakes, or I'm not talking about serious mistakes, I'm talking about silly mistakes, you know? Or we do something silly or whatever. Yeah, there's times to laugh at ourselves and let others laugh with us or at us, but not at the expense of being the overall joke because of who we are as we exist. But I do think that laughter is important, and it's learning to not take yourself so seriously all the time. And that's a fine line. Like, I had to really learn where to walk that fine line, you know? When are the times to take myself seriously, and when are the times to laugh at myself as well? And that comes into knowing what's important to you. That goes back to the one that said before, like, what are your belief systems? There are some things to me that are just not funny enough to laugh at. There just aren't, you know? Oh, putting my glasses on upside down. And then it goes on and it says, when we have learned to trust ourselves, we will be trustworthy and ready to trust. And I 100% agree with that. Trust is a huge thing, you know? And they say, like, you know, you have to, like if somebody doesn't trust you in a relationship, it's because they don't trust themselves. I agree with that statement. I really do. I'm not saying that there aren't other signs there that maybe you're going, oh, my gut is telling me that I shouldn't trust the situation that's going on. Like, my friend's acting a little weird, or, you know, this guy that I'm dating, like, you know, he's like, hasn't called me for 4 days. Like, is he spending time? I'm not saying that, right? But I think by and large, when we don't trust ourselves or how we're going to act, there's no ability to trust somebody else. We have to learn to trust ourselves. And that again goes back to knowing who you are and taking care of yourselves most. When we can be grateful for who we are, we will have achieved self-love. And I think that that's like probably the most powerful one out of all of these, you know, is that when you get to the point where you're grateful for everything that led you to this point, yeah, I have a lot of regrets. I have mistakes that I've made in my life. There are things that I wish that I could go back and change, and I would do over in a heartbeat if I could, you know. But overall, where I'm at in my life today, you know, the ups, the downs, the bitter and the sweet, the sad and the happy, I'm grateful for my life today. Every day, you know, I say to my higher power in my prayers, I say, thank you for another day alive. Thank you for allowing me to experience this world today. I think that's the gratitude of each and every day, not just taking it passively, not just being like, oh, another day, whatever, but really realizing that this is another day, you know, and being grateful for that. When you do that, I do think that's somewhere close to achievement of self-love, that you realize, wow, what a gift this is. You know, that there is only one me, and there is only one you, and there will only forever be one me, and there will only forever be one you. And we are unique, eccentric, weird, cool, lovable characters out there, right? And so as it being just me and just you, we should live this world as just me and just you, and embrace each other and love each other and be kind to one another, you know, and remain teachable so that we continue to grow and enjoy the world as much as we possibly can. This was a fantastic meditation. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.